My name is Ray Swick. I'm the historian for the West Virginia State Park System, based here at Blennerhassett Museum in Parkersburg, West Virginia. Even though Parkersburg was on the fringe of the battle activity of the Civil War, the Blennerhassett Museum today has a very exciting and growing Civil War exhibit for the public to see and enjoy and to learn from. Welcome to Fort Boorman. This park was established by the Wood County Commission several years ago to commemorate the fact that there stood here a Civil War fort to protect the navigation of the Ohio River, which was used by the Union forces to transfer supplies and men, and also to protect the river port of Parkersburg.
The transformation of the Mid-Ohio Valley from a wilderness to a strategic transportation center in the 1850s was spearheaded by the city of Parkersburg and its vicinity, expanding from a small, sleepy river town into an important transportation hub and a center of the oil industry. In 1848, the Staunton-Parkersburg Turnpike was completed, opening up transportation and commerce to western Virginia from Staunton. 9 years later, the Northwestern Turnpike was completed, connecting Parkersburg to Winchester, Virginia. The Northwestern Virginia Railroad, a spur line of the Baltimore and Ohio Railroad to Parkersburg, was completed in 1857. Thus, passengers and freight were offloaded or loaded at Parkersburg to a ferry or steamer to cross the Ohio River to Belpre or Marietta, Ohio. The Mid-Ohio Valley's oil boom began with drilling activities by the Rathbone family in the Burning Springs area, the site of one of the nation's first oil fields and some of the oldest producing oil wells in the world. The first Union troops crossed the Ohio River and arrived at the Parkersburg Wharf around noon on May 27, 1861. They received a friendly welcome from the townspeople and moved on to Clarksburg and Grafton by train. As many as 40,000 troops landed at Parkersburg during the first few months of the war, including George B. McClellan on June 21st. In August and September of 1862, Confederate General Albert G. Jenkins, with a cavalry detachment of 550, embarked on a raiding expedition across western Virginia with orders to destroy the B&O Railroad and fall upon the rear of the enemy in the Kanawha Valley. Jenkins moved from one conquest to another, passing through Grantsville, and on September 2nd, the rebel force reached Spencer, where he captured an entire Union command. The Jones-Imboden raid of April and May 1863 is the most noteworthy Confederate raid in northwestern Virginia. The purpose was to destroy the railroad in northwestern Virginia and to disrupt supply lines and to play havoc with Union forces. Coming from successful raids east of Parkersburg, moving by the Staunton-Parkersburg Turnpike, the Confederate raiders entered Cairo and then moved on to the Burning Springs oil fields, which they had reached the morning of May 9th. The raiders lit one of the biggest fires ever seen in western Virginia as the producing wells and stored oil were set ablaze. At Burning Springs Park, a self-guided tour presents the captivating stories of the nation's first oil and gas field. Visitors can still view the world's oldest producing oil well. The Jones-Imboden raid exposed some of the weaknesses in the disposition of Union troops defending the B&O and hastened the construction of a system of fixed defensive positions, blockhouses, and forts. One of these forts was named Fort Boorman in honor of Arthur I. Boorman, West Virginia's first governor. Today, Fort Boorman Historical Park features a partially reconstructed Union Civil War fortification, trenches, ammunition magazine, interpretive signs, and a spectacular view of Parkersburg and the confluence of the Ohio and Little Kanawha rivers. Confederate General John Hunt Morgan's raid occurred in July of 1863. It included the largest U.S. naval action on the Ohio River. On the evening of July 18th, advanced elements of Morgan's force reached Buffington Island, where Morgan intended to cross the Ohio River using the ford. 13 miles downstream of Parkersburg, Morgan decided to hazard a crossing at the head of Belleville Island. They plunged into the water without taking notice of the arrival of the gunboats, the Moose and the Allegheny Belle. As they reached midstream, the gunboats steamed into range and opened a deadly fire. Split off from the main body, Confederate Colonel Stovepipe Johnson, who had successfully crossed the Ohio River at Belleville, along with some of his men, were aided by a number of Confederate families. Clothed and fed, Johnson's men headed to safety, away from the pursuing gunboats. Most of the Confederates, including Morgan, returned to the Ohio side and were captured. Today, the Mid-Ohio Valley is a vibrant, welcoming place to visit. The story of its captivating history and heritage is faithfully retold through compelling artifacts and video at the Oil and Gas Museum. The crown jewel of the area, idyllic Blennerhassett Island State Park, features an 18th century mansion and retells the story of Harmon and Margaret Blennerhassett's romantic and tragic saga. Henderson Hall is another local historic treasure that shouldn't be missed because of its ties to the Civil War. Open for tours daily, this impressive 17-room Civil War mansion with all of its original furnishings has survived as a legacy of the Victorian and Edwardian eras. The area is also a wonderful place to enjoy nature. North Bend State Park features 2,400 acres of breathtaking natural beauty and includes a 305-acre lake perfect for a day of fishing or boating.